What's up, everybody? I wanted to make a couple announcements, I guess, at the beginning of this, because this next couple of videos is going to be a little bit strange. The first thing I wanted to point out is the channel hit 200 subscribers this week, which I'm very surprised by and not at all prepared for. So I know I did like 100 subscribers episode, but I kind of saw that coming a little faster. I haven't really put anything together for this, but I'm working on that, so I will let you guys know if I come up with something. Thank you so much for everyone who has subscribed. I do appreciate it quite a bit, and I hope that you're enjoying what you see so far. But for anyone new, feel free to introduce yourself down in the comments. And also, if there's anything you'd like to see me do, any critiques of the channel, I'm always open, so let me know what you think. Other than that, the next couple of videos I'm doing, basically what happened is I wanted to do a talk about sort of the difference between old school mechanics and new school mechanics, and the differences in older cars versus newer cars, because I feel like a lot of people think there's a divide there, and that you sort of have people who work on one and people who work on the other, which is probably true in a lot of cases, but I don't think that it should be. But unfortunately, I have a tendency to talk way more than I need to. And when I was trying to edit the footage down, it was gonna be a ridiculous, like a 45-minute video or something. So rather than do that, I'm gonna break it down into some smaller sections and put them in these types of videos. So in a second, I'm going to show you that. Today, we're basically talking about the carbureted old school cars and kind of what differentiates working on them versus working on newer cars. So we're going to do that, and then we're going to come back here and wrap that up, and then I'll have some more stuff coming up. So here is that. So today, I'm just kind of doing some vlogging because I'm out actually running some errands today. But then I wanted to talk about something in particular, and that's going to be old school mechanics versus new school mechanics, and older cars versus newer cars, and why you should know both. The first reason is because both exist. Even though carbureted cars are not as common on the street anymore, they are still coming into garages, they're still showing up in shops, they're still out there on the road. And if you're an automotive professional or just somebody who tries to help your friends out a lot, you don't want to be that guy that gets to carburetors and has no idea what he's doing and just is like, you're gonna have to send that somewhere else. So the other reason is none of it is really that alien. So what I want to do, because there's not so much a defined line between old school and new school. Vehicles and vehicle engines and vehicle diagnostics have been changing and evolving gradually over many years now, and I don't even think I could break it down into two groups. So what I am going to try to do is talk about some of the strengths and weaknesses of each of what I would call 4 different phases of vehicle fuel management. So in the first phase is what I would call truly old school, and what I mean by that is the early carbureted and distributor driven ignition vehicles, the old simple cars that most people refer to when they're talking about that, cars from the 50s, 60s, 70s, etc. And I don't fully understand why some of these, what people would call new school mechanics, don't understand these cars. First of all, there's a lot less to them than there is to a lot of the new ones. If you've got the time to sit down and understand things like active ride control, then there's really no reason you can't spend a little bit of time figuring your way around a carburetor. The difference, though, is that there's a big difference in how things are done. A lot of the same things are done. Fuel is mixed with air, it's delivered to the cylinder, it's ignited at a specific time during the compression stroke, and it makes power. That's no different whether you're talking about a newer or an older engine. The difference is how all that stuff is accomplished. And in older engines, the further back you go, the more this is true. You're going to have a lot less electronic components, down to the point where you have pretty much none. And you're going to have a lot more mechanical things, a lot more stuff moved by vacuum and moved by mechanical means. And a lot of the proponents of old engines are better than new engines, that's why they like them. It's like I said, the same things are being done. The difference is that there is an actual device moving something in an older engine. If a lever is pulled, it is pulled by a vacuum pod, or it is pulled by a mechanical linkage. There's something you can actually look at. You can actually see something being done. There's a mechanical aspect to everything that happens. So I think that has a lot to do with why certain people like those cars more than the newer ones. A lot of the same stuff happens, just a lot more things happen in newer engines. The difference is more of it's electronic, more of it is occurring in a circuit board or in an electronic control module. So there's nothing tangible you can actually see making whatever you're talking about happening happen. So the advantages to those older setups is simplicity, it's transparency, and it's a lack of need for much in the line of electronic devices to diagnose or repair. But there are some tools that you need in those that you may not necessarily have if you don't work on those, such as having we have a thing at work, which I'll have to actually do a video and show you because it's pretty interesting, that you hook compressed air to, that will put hot air out one side and cold air out the other, and it's specifically there to test chokes. And if you don't have that, then obviously telling whether or not a choke is coming on or off at certain temperatures might be a little more complicated. If you've never set points before, that might be something you may not even have the stuff for. If for example, you've never tuned a carburetor before, you might not have, we have like some little weird flexible flathead screwdrivers and stuff that can get into some of the harder reach places in carburetors to get to the screws to turn them to set your tuning and stuff. So there are tools. There's not as much, and it's usually cheaper and simpler, but there are some tools that you need for carbureted engines. But the other thing is, a carbureted engine isn't going to do any diagnosing for you. There are no sensors. There's nothing monitoring anything. The engine works or it doesn't work. And if it doesn't work, it's going to be entirely up to you to figure out why it doesn't work. You're going to have to go back and check fuel, check compression, check spark, check timing. There are some external devices you may attach to the engine to help you see things that you can't see, but there's nothing in there assisting you in doing any kind of diagnosis, which I think is why some of the newer mechanics don't want to mess with them, because you become so reliant on the scanner, on the factory service stuff to do the diagnosing for you, that you forget how to diagnose, which is kind of silly, because honestly, even the most modern computers do not fully diagnose problems. They'll tell you what they see or don't see. They'll tell you what area there's a problem in. But if you don't know how to actually test the stuff manually within that area, you're going to be led to a lot of misdiagnosis. So these are still things people need to know, but it's an easy thing to get lazy and not do it. So I would say, as far as strengths and weaknesses, strengths to the old cars would be simplicity, ease of being able to repair it with more commonly available hand tools and stuff, which is really cool. But diagnostically requires you to know more as far as behavioral stuff and everything goes. So that's a little different there. But that's about all I can say about that particular phase that I can think of right now anyway. Now, before I run up to this Goodwill and drop the stuff off I'm here to drop off, I will point out that though I'm not going to consider this an individual phase, there is a time period right at the end of carburetors, right before computer-controlled fuel-injected cars became the norm, that is very odd. And if you work on cars in this time period, you're going to run into some strange things. Because for a bit there, manufacturers were trying not to reinvent the wheel. So they were trying to keep these engines that were already carburated. And because of that, you get a lot of these weird hybrid computer controlled carburetor cars. And it seems like every manufacturer had a completely different way of approaching this. So the cars that were produced in that area, which is mostly like in the early to mid 80s and like early 70s for some manufacturers, some of those things you'll run into are going to be really, really weird and really, really one-off. So, but you know, anything can be learned. The information's out there, but it's not going to be run-of-the-mill stuff. Although a lot of those cars are plenty old enough at this point that there's no reason you can't actually retrofit them back to their original carbureted versions and do away with the sort of half computer system stuff. We've done that on cars before, and then it kind of puts it back in the realm of, okay, well, this is normal carbureted stuff. Okay guys, so hopefully that was somewhat informative and not too rambly. Let me know what you think down in the comments, and the next video or two, depending on how I have to edit that out, are going to be more about OBD1 versus OBD2 versus CAN cars, and how the fuel injected cars and their computer systems changed, and sort of the differences there. So look for those. And other than that, I'm out of here for this one. The other video will be out in a couple days. But other than that though, I really appreciate you guys. Drop me a like on this video if you liked it. Leave me a comment. And if you are subscribed, hit the little bell icon. And if you're not subscribed, be that way, hopefully. See you guys next week. Appreciate it.